Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Robert Phoenix, a little bit after 9 a.m. here in Fredericksburg, Texas. Let me just adjust the angle slightly. I've decided to just record today in a different location in the house because I'm hardwired into the modem, and it seems to be a little slow, a little bulky. I'd love to get some feedback from you folks in the chat room who might be able to give me a little real-time feedback onto the image. Are we getting any latency? Question mark, question mark. Sibilance. Okay, well, since I'm not hearing back from you, I'll just continue to move forward, which is the tradition here. How is everyone? I took the night off from the Astro live stream. Oh, good. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you. Excellent. I was trying to incorporate some Zoom today. Still have a bit of a learning curve on that. Good morning, Jennifer. It's coming a little slowly. Your picture's jerky. Sounds fine. Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I am hardwired into, excuse me, I'm hardwired into the modem, so it should be better as perhaps the stream gets more robust, as they say. Well, we have one more day before thing hits the fan, right? Tomorrow. It's going to be pretty interesting, to say the least. We're talking a little bit about some of that today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about, hi, White Wolf. I want to talk a little bit about the what's going on down on the border, immigration-wise, and Trump City, which looks like it's going to be erected by the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers, and this is the great work of the 21st century. Apparently, it's going to be tent city. Can't wait to see what happens. We're still waiting for this wave of immigrants to hit the border, and I'd like to see some real evidence and proof as to what's going on in that part of the world. And I believe that we are going to see a wave of people. How much? How soon? Those are all, hey, Anthe, those are all tent cities. Haven't been too cool in Europe and elsewhere. Was there a live stream of 11th House last night? No, there was not. I did not do a live stream of 11th House because I was taking the night off. Took it off. Sometimes you just got to take things off. But anyway, this tent city, also known as Trump City, will be quite interesting, to say the least. At what point does Trump City become an internment camp? At what point does it become a concentration camp? If indeed it is built out the way that they're talking about it being built out, and to house theoretically 15,000 people on the U.S. side of the border. There was not a live stream, just to let you know. Yeah, so there's going to be some backlash around this whole thing. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and I wanted to talk about something that's really kind of grabbed my attention in terms of big picture and governance. And a lot of times we think about this idea of the corporatocracy and fascism as coming from within our own government, and our own government becoming wedded with corporations and having this sort of iron fist where the corporation, the government rule hand in glove simultaneously, one with the other. And this clearly is the classic definition of fascism as set out by Benito Mussolini. However, there is a new model of fascism that's coming and is actually in our presence. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this today. And it's actually coming from the corporate side. And it's the corporate side's version of governance. And when I say governance, it's not the same kind of governance that is connected to people that vote or have amendments or anything like that. It's not the same. It's about governing one's emotional response, governing one's thinking, governing one's purse strings and pocketbooks. It's a different type of governance. And at the same time, it is clearly a form. It's a new form of governance, and it's coming through. And it's always sort of been there, I mean, if you look at the history of advertising and corporations being able to insert their will into the individual vis-a-vis advertising, it's always kind of been there. But there are the two main cogs of advertising have always been greed and fear. This is what advertising has always fed upon, is greed and fear. So I'll give you an example of a fear commercial, fear-based commercial. When maybe you remember this, you're old enough to remember this. Good morning, Paula. There used to be commercials, I believe they're for Michelin tires, where there was a baby inside of the tire, like the tire was a cradle. The tire was something that represented a symbol of safety for the baby. Okay, that was a commercial that's based on applying or addressing your fear, right? Your fear, your ultimate fear is losing a child. That's that for a parent. That's the ultimate fear. It's losing a child. So what they did is they wrapped the child in a tire. And so what would happen is that your response would be, okay, this tire is safe. Therefore, my baby will be safe. Therefore, I will be a good parent and I will lessen the odds of something catastrophic happening to my child. So that's one version of how Madison Avenue would get into your head. It's about fear. If you notice the commercials that are for companies like Merrill Lynch or E-Trade or people that are there to get your money, they'll always find somebody who's older who had wished that they had saved more or had better investments or had a better advisor, because now they're kind of screwed and having to work at Walmart. That's another version of fear, right? They're getting into your fear wheelhouse and they're selling a product because in that moment you're open. Those are two very, very fundamental kinds of, examples. There are much more watered down examples. It's interesting now that there's been a kind of a shift in the advertising world where, for instance, insurance, where's the beef? We got meats. Hey, Robert, got milk. Where's the beef? We got meats. We got meats. That's the new Arby's commercial. We got the meats. So now what's really interesting around the insurance piece is that they've kind of, they've kind of turned the game a little bit. And they're doing this sort of making insurance fun, making insurance weird, because they've got to sell insurance now to millennials. Sex is in the power mode. Sex is in the greed mode. I'll talk about that. That's a completely different camp. But now if you look at insurance companies and some of the insurance ads, before those insurance ads were geared towards people who had families. You wanted to protect the family. You wanted to protect your home. All these kinds of high level pieces around insurance, right? Which I think is a scam anyway, but that's another show. So now what insurance companies have done is they've become ironic, or commercials have become ironic. And the first one a long time ago, well, no, it's not, probably about 3 years ago, was, I believe it was either Allstate or State Farm. I always get the two mixed up. And the character is named Mayhem. And he's a middle-aged white male. It's the same guy that was in the HBO TV prison series called Oz. And he was one of the bad mofos, bad Irish mofo on Oz. I don't know his name. But he's Mayhem now. He just happens to be a white middle-class male. And we'll just throw that out there. He's Mayhem. And he's gonna cause all these problems in the world, right? So he's not a so-called Black American male. No, that's Dennis Haysbert, who actually has a very deep voice, and I think he's a State Farm guy, but he's all about reason. He's all about being sound, being safe. I forget his tagline, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So they're two diametrically opposed characters here. But the Mayhem character made having insurance ironic, weird, goofy, and that set off a whole new kind of wave of selling insurance. So now, of course, we have the commercials with Dennis Quaid, which are turning the commercial inside out. Like he's letting you know that they're creating a commercial and that there's really nothing sexy about insurance. But, you know, you may as well just bundle it together. You may as well just click this. I think that's the e-insurance model. Of course, Geico started this new wave of advertising with the caveman. So simple, even a caveman can do it. So they moved away from insurance being this thing that you needed and was sort of preying upon your fear. And what they did is they made it arch and hip and cool because they knew that in order to get to a younger generation, they'd have to remodel their advertising. So in some ways, it's really kind of, it's interesting and it's appealing in a way. It's like it's sort of moved away from either the fear or greed model, desire or fear. I mean, that's really what insurance has been, commercials have been boiled down to. But they've realized that they've got to do something different in order to get into the heads of people. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hip. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's goofy. And this is how they've decided to remodel insurance because they got to make sure that young people keep buying that insurance. It's really important. On the other side of the ledger sheet, we have the desire model. And FUP says, what about sex sells? That's in the desire model. And you'll see that in mostly like car commercials, big time. Although what's interesting about car commercials is that what we've been seeing for a long time is the purple mattress ads. Yeah. Again, there's the ironic piece with purple mattress, right? But what we've been seeing for a long time with car commercials is that the car is supposed to make the quote unquote man sexier, more powerful. He's in the driver's seat, all that stuff. And you still see some of that, but you'll see that in the truck world. And I've talked about this before because car ads have radically changed. And car ads have become much more geared towards women. They want women to, you know, have the power, drive the car, be in the driver's seat. And by the way, keep your eyes on commercials now when there is a car ad and notice who's driving. It's a really important piece. Who is in the driver's seat? See, here we have the first sort of threads and clues that there's a new form of governance going on, that there's a new form of governing your ideas, your attitudes, your beliefs, your emotions, and your thoughts. And it's coming through commercials if you're still watching TV, and a lot of people still watch TV. You know what I've noticed recently, YouTube is, you know, I watch a number of channels on YouTube, and YouTube has gotten, I was watching a Robert David Steele video over the weekend, which was mildly entertaining. Robert David Steele is a trip, right? It's like the guy has such an idea, an image of himself that kind of blows my mind. It's actually interesting on some level, but now he's threatening that if Trump doesn't make changes, that he's going to run for president. And boy, he better, you know, Trump better watch out because he doesn't want Robert David Steele to run for president. It's really funny, actually. And it's like, wow, this guy really thinks he can run for president and defeat Donald Trump. I mean, he's got some interesting ideas. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to completely diss him. I like the fact that he wants Greens and libertarians and all these people to populate so we can have a very different kind of agenda moving forward. I really don't have a problem with that at all. But his idea that he can actually take on Donald Trump and win in 2020 is entertaining to say the least. Anyway, I was watching one of his videos, and right in the 10 minutes in, there's a commercial. And YouTube never used to do this. They never did this before. YouTube would allow video to play through its entirety, and now it's become like a freaking TV show. Or now you've got to watch 10 minutes and then see a commercial. Watch 10 minutes, see another commercial. Okay, boom. And it's like the whole idea of governing your thoughts and your emotions has now seeped into alternative media and videos on YouTube. And Chris and Steve's commercials now in the middle of baseball innings. Yeah, they'll do that. They will do it right in the middle of it. Well, yeah. So what they'll do now is they'll do the frame around the screen. and they'll do something going on in the screen on the frame while it's actually taking place in the game. Anyway, I wanted to get back to this whole idea of what's going on with commercial. We have power / desire, and we have fear. And the power side has always, almost always dealt with sexuality, the power of sex. Although that is kind of diminishing in some ways, it's kind of diminishing. But what we're seeing now is something completely new, something that I've never seen over the course of my life, and I've been on this planet. I have ad block, and the ad block does not work for inside of YouTube videos. Once YouTube is streaming that video, it doesn't work. It's on the inside of that video. They'll stop. I've done it. Anyway, so what we're seeing now is something completely different with commercials. And there are. I wish I could play the commercial and have you see it. I was working on that today, and one of the commercials that grabbed my attention, and I've been seeing this for a while, but the first one that I think really was the one that made a very clear statement was the ad with Nike and Colin Kaepernick. That ad made a clear statement, and that Nike was aligning itself with a political agenda. They were aligning themselves with a political agenda, and they were aligning themselves with an ideology, which again represents a form of governance. Now, it may not be the type of governance that's emanating from your state house, or it may not be the type of governance that's emanating from Washington, D.C., but it is a type of governance, and it is a system. And Nike decided that they were going to bolt themselves to that system. So when you watch the Kaepernick video, it is landmark and revolutionary in the sense that now we have a corporation that is involved in some level of governance, and not the governance that's just trying to govern your thoughts and feelings, your emotions, your desires, all those things, which they've normally done. But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to create they're wedding themselves to a social construct that people who theoretically want to buy their products can then be motivated to become a participant in. It's a very different model in some ways than what's coming out of the government. The government says, okay, well, we're going to have this sort of reality, and we're going to wed ourselves to this other reality. Clearly, this was the case when the United States went through the big economic crisis in 2009, and we started buying companies, bought AIG, bailed out Chrysler, Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae, and all those entities. And that was clearly an exhibition, an expository kind of lesson in fascism, because that's what was going on. I've talked a great deal about Solyndra and what happened with Solyndra, what a scam Solyndra was in creating the solar tubes, which I knew were going to fail because they couldn't keep up with the Chinese market, which was much, much, much cheaper, more efficient, all that stuff, right? So they knew going in that there was a very strong chance that company was not going to be able to make it past maybe 18 months. But it was a way for them to funnel lots of money through, get it to donors and investors and politicians and people just bilking the system on the side. Anyway, we saw that, right? So we saw that version, and there's always been corporate interest inside of government. The people have always, our representatives, our state representatives, senators, et cetera, they've been carrying the water for corporations for years and years and years. So we've already had this sort of limited version of fascism. It's like a soft fascism, which has been going on for a long time. But this other model now that's emerging from the commercial world is very, very different. And it is both interesting from a cultural perspective, but also a bit disturbing. So one of the commercials, the Kaepernick commercial clearly is landmark in that sense. And it's another one of these divide and conquer sort of, cultural memes. It's like, okay, there's going to be one generation that's not going to buy Nike. There's going to be another generation that says, this is cool. I'm going to get this because these other people over here don't want it. It separates them out from me. I'm younger, smarter, faster, This is a better model. They're outdated, they're antiquated, they're fossils. And of course it's smart, because Nike is looking at theoretically who's going to be buying their products 15 years from now. It's not going to be the people who are not into that commercial. I can guarantee you that right now. So what they're doing is they're farming their economic base and trying to bring them forward into the future so they can continue to buy and support Nike products. But there's now a political ideology and a political agenda wrapped around this. And it clearly is, the two dirty words, social Marxist, right? They're not peddling libertarian thought, right? They're not peddling because that was kind of the version of Nike back in the 80s. Just do it. Just do it, right? Just do it. Very libertarian, very free. Just, put your energy into it. Just do it. It's not just do it now. It's like, well, just do it and, do this too. Like, fuck you. Fuck you. We're not being a part of your world. We're not being a part of your society. This guy rejected everything. He rejected everything. And he laid it all out there because when he did that, he was making a statement. He gave up everything and he got everything. It's a religious, by the way, it's Christian, right? I mean, they're also playing into a Christian image because Christ leaves this world. He gives up everything in this world for something greater, which is his relationship with his Father and the kingdom of heaven within. So they're playing on a religious theme as well. So Kaepernick theoretically is giving up on this world. So when he gives up on this world, the Lord of Saturn, Nike, says, okay, well, we have another world over here that's waiting for you. And you have acolytes from every stripe, every single religion, every single faith, every single creed, every single race, every single fringe-oriented person. And these are your acolytes. These are your disciples. And all you have to do now is wear the right shoes. So there's a level of governance now that's coming through. It's coming through the corporate side. I'll give you another example. I really tried to see if I could pop this up and bring it onto YouTube so you guys could watch this commercial because it's kind of mind-blowing in a lot of ways. I just saw it yesterday for the first time. It's a Levi's commercial, and some of you may know kind of the commercial I'm talking about. You might have seen it. It's just popped over the last few days. And the image is there's no dialogue at all in this video, and it's shot incredibly well. I mean the imagery, the lighting, everything is done incredibly well. Like the budget on this must have been pretty significant. And what you see in this video is you see people getting ready to vote, but they're not your average people. Okay. They're not, the theme is, I can break this commercial down, stop it and show you like what's happening clearly. So in one scene, there's a woman with a burqa. Now, what is that? Why is that important? Well, there's another scene in the Nike commercial where there's a woman with a burqa and she's doing some kind of sport. I don't know what she's doing, but it's clear we got burqa woman, right? Now, burqa woman shows up again in this Levi's commercial. She's going to vote. Boy, well, she's not voting in Saudi Arabia. Are they doing that now? You know that it's not Saudi Arabia, but she's going to vote. I don't know where she's voting. Maybe here. Maybe she's voting in Dearborn. So she's going to vote. Okay, good. All right. Then you have this African-American woman with the afro, because now we're accessing the 1970s symbol of Black Power, right? The afro, Colin Kaepernick. Again, a brand. There he is. He's got the fro. So she's walking to the voting booth. Then they cut to a scene where these guys are living in some shanty town somewhere. I mean, it's probably Africa. And one guy's walking around with one leg. And, they're getting together, and boy, it's a great day because they're going to go out and, they're going to vote. They get on these buses, and who knows where those buses are going. But you look at those buses, they're busing people in to vote. So you're getting all these images of people who, sort of conform to this idea that, they're not the people that go to Chick-fil-A. These are not your Chick-fil-A diners, okay? They're not. And then you have this one scene where it looks like maybe they could eat a Chick-fil-A. And it's a father and a son. And you can tell that there's an inherent tension between the father and the son, because the father and the son are likely going to be, poles apart, literally and figuratively, when they decide to sit down and vote. You can watch this. It looks Dust Bowl-y. The kid's wearing a blue jean jacket. So he's blue collar. He's got the blue collar look. But, what's he going to do? Is he going to flip his vote? He's going to counter the vote to his more traditional father. Remember, this is a Levi's commercial. This is, and they're encouraging people to go out and vote. Why? Why is this taking place? Is it taking place because they really feel so strongly about being an American and going out and voting? Well, half the images in that video or that commercial don't even resemble America, or the America that we know, the United States of America that we know. I'm not here beating a drum like, yay, America. I'm just looking at the truth or the lack thereof in advertising and what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is they're trying to wrap your head around a process that isn't necessarily connected to this country at all. Like, it goes beyond this country. We'll go out. Well, are they showing this video in Lesotho? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. And yet the imagery is like, well, there's no borders. Come on up. Come on in. We got voting booths over in Botswana, Lesotho, Djibouti. We've got voting booths down there in Malaysia. Just come on in and vote for the American elections. We've set them up. I mean, this is kind of the globalist wet dream, is this Levi's commercial. And they're telling people, they're advocating people to go out and vote. But the vibe is decidedly, if you go out and vote, look at the people who are voting. What do you have in common? Who do you have in common with? Who's your commonality here? Who's your tribe? And this tribalism is starting to proliferate now. They're dividing and conquering. They're creating new tribes, old tribes. But this is new. I've never seen this in commercials before. I've never seen commercials become so politically active. I'll give you another one. I wish I could play it again. And this one just popped. Apparently, this commercial has been out for a year. That's the release date of the commercial. I just started seeing it a few weeks ago. And it's a commercial for Johnnie Walker Black, which is it's actually a very good scotch. Johnnie Walker Black, and there's a band called Chicano Batman that is doing a version of This Land Is Your Land. And it's all about walking. Keep walking. Like, get it, Johnnie Walker Black. Keep walking. So the idea here is that here's this message with this cool hipster band. I think they're from LA, doing this version, this sort of Latinized version of This Land. They do a fine job. It's cool, it's catchy, they've got talent, whatever. Starts off with them sitting down and they're drinking. They don't even drink, they just have it there. You can't drink alcohol on TV. But it's like, we've had Johnnie Walker and we feel so inspired. The spirit has moved us, because that's what alcohol is, it's spirit, right? And they become possessed and they decide to take their song and dance to the streets and sing and shout it to the world that this land is your land. And there's irony in it, right? It's like, hey, motherfucker, this land is my land too, right? But the whole idea, the timing around this takes place with this caravan where theoretically people are walking, right? So here we have another instance of a corporation, and the corporation does the final sign-off. Of course, they have creative agencies, but the corporation does the final sign-off on the idea, the advertising campaign, the advertising promotions. And if you don't think that they do, well, you're patently wrong, because they can lose people. They can lose customers. They can lose consumers if they send the wrong message. So they're sending a particular message. So their idea is, okay, we want to get in and we want to govern people towards a new reality, a new political reality, a new political paradigm. So we're seeing this idea of the rise of the corporatocracy come through the commercial side, in as much as we've seen it come through the governmental side. So it's a fascinating time to watch this transference taking place. And of course, we're dealing with Pluto and Capricorn and Saturn and Capricorn, and it's about vying for the power of your attention. Your attention. That's what's happening. Vying for the power of playing your emotional signal so that you get moved to do something, right? Go out and vote. Go out and vote against these motherfuckers who don't want you to have any of this, right? Because if here's what happens, if these guys stay in power, you won't get to drink Johnnie Walker Red, or the quality of your Levi's will be, who knows? I don't know. I can't even begin to fathom. I mean, I do get it. I get what they're doing with the Levi's commercial. I totally get it. But I've never seen so many ads geared towards the motivation around voting and voting in a particular way. What would happen if they just did a red, white, and blue flag with, instead of stars, they had the Levi's symbol, up there at the top, and just said, Levi's. We were there during the gold rush, and we're here now in the greatest election, of our time. Go out and vote, or whatever. I mean, why didn't they just do that? If they were so dedicated towards getting people to vote, that would have been a very kind of bipartisan. They could have stuck their brand in there, or nonpartisan sort of way of doing it. So they didn't, though. I just saw another commercial yesterday. It was shocking. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. And again, I'm not here to defend Trump, because I think some of the things Trump has done are pretty undefensible in some ways. In some, it's just strangely interesting and surreal. And then there's the astrological thing, which is all about the deconstruction. And this is what he is and has been and does. He'll do one thing that looks interesting and sounds good. It might actually be important, like getting us out of the TPP. And then he'll step on the TP, and he'll be walking up, Air Force One. I mean, so stuff like that, right? You'll see this constant control. Anyway, the New York Times ran a commercial yesterday, and it was blatantly anti-Trump. I've never seen a newspaper or a periodical or publication just go after somebody in such a direct fashion. Do the research, look at his tax records, this, that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Why are you doing this? You're which brings up an interesting point. Why is all this happening? And if Americans, contrary to popular opinion, Americans are not dumb, although the dumbing down has been taking place for a couple of decades now. Americans are actually fairly smart. They're waking up. They're seeing what's going on. And the ones that are waking up, they're looking around and saying, what's going on with our world? Why are we being harassed? Why are we being hassled? Why are we having this sort of progressive social Marxist agenda being, shoved down our throats every time we turn around, whether it's a commercial or Don Lemon or whoever, right? So the question is a good one. And one has to kind of be somewhat aware of the fact that maybe that at a high level, these groups might actually be in some form of collusion, which would not surprise me at all. And I've talked about this again. It's the Pincer Effect, where people are moved by the contrarian or the alternative point of view. It's the point of view that can be so polarizing that it forces them into this other camp. Because the Democrats seem to be stepping in their shit all the time now. I mean, they just keep doubling down on this identity politics thing. You have to wonder, because they're going to get their asses kicked tomorrow. They're going to, and of course, we'll have some voter weirdness. We've already talked about that, but they're going to get their asses kicked. Okay. Let me see. Sticky Marks just chimed in. Just in case you and your group don't know this about smart tech and 5G, creates grid. My late brother at Marconi at also secret or was militarized. Yep, we know, man. We know about 5G. 5G is a grid. It is the web. It is the mind lock. 5G will run AI and it will run us. Ironically, 5G will humanize AI and dehumanize humanity. Yeah, you're preaching the choir here. But it's just all right until I figure out what the fuck I'm doing. I think my contract. Good morning. Glad to finally join the live stream. Hey, welcome, Wandering Soul. It's a weapon. All it's food for is the reason it exists. Nothing else matters. 5G is a big deal, but I'm going to give you 3 examples of 5G where it's been turned down and voted out. It's not impossible. It is not impossible. Mill Valley, San Anselmo, and Fairfax have all voted 5G out. You're not going to be able to get 5G in those 3 places, Marin County. It is not impossible. We have to get down to a local level. It's really important. The one thing about California is that they do understand the hazards of certain things, environmental hazards. California's been kind of on that tip for a while, and they make a big deal out of it. That's the one thing about Californians it's actually pretty redeeming. Here in Texas, it's a little bit different. People are not environmentally oriented. They're not. It's not the same kind of mindset. We run into this when we talk to people about the fluoride in the water here, and they'll say, "Well, I'm healthy." Well, how old are you? Well, I'm 40, 43. Okay, well, wait until you get to be about 53, and then let's see how good your health is at that point. And I'm not dissing these people. It's just a different mindset. So, yes, we all agree about 5G. And the traction here, and this is what I've been talking about for a while, is being able to make a difference on a local level. And that's one of the reasons why I live in a small town, because I want to see what can happen. I want to see if we can actually make a change. And the change is the most fundamental change we can make, which is the water. By the way, if you go to the YouTube page, if you go to our Facebook page, Clean Water Fred, you'll see an interview that I did. We also have a YouTube page called Clean Water Fredericksburg. And I did an interview with Sam Brannon of Fluoride Free San Marcos. And it's been really interesting meeting Sam. I have to say, he was the guy that was one of the organizers of that fluoride-free group, and they got fluoride out of San Marcos's water. And San Marcos is a pretty big place. You drive around, it's a pretty big area, not like Fredericksburg, which is very concentrated. It took them 2 years to get the fluoride out, and they did. And the cool thing about meeting Sam is that Sam is, how do I say this? I don't want to sound like nepotistic, not nepotistic. What's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me. Anyway, Sam got switched on, right? He went through a period of his life. He looked at the corporate world. He looked at his job, not a lot of meaning. He checked out. He went down the rabbit hole, and he's somebody who's gone down the rabbit hole and got involved locally and is now working on whatever he can do for his community to make sure other people don't fuck it up. Okay. So, this is what we're supposed to do when we wake up. We're not supposed to sit on the sidelines. It's great that we can decode symbolism, and I can do it all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? It's one of the things I do. But that doesn't matter. What matters is being able to make a change, a fundamental change with where you are and how you live. And the 3 big things have got to be fluoride, 5G, glyphosate, and GMOs. 4 things. Those are the 4 planks. And if we can remove those 4 planks, or at least limit them as much as we can at a local level, then we actually have a fighting chance to hang on to the quality of our lives. So I encourage all of you to take those steps and to do whatever you can locally to ensure the quality of your life. We may not be able to make a change in Washington, D.C. I may not be able to make a change in Austin, where the state capital is, but we might be able to make fundamental changes, not crazy changes, not asking these people to do things that they're not equipped to do. All we're asking is to have a representative voice that is sort of this smaller edition of the collective with where we live, and to be able to live in an environment that is safe on a physical level. And I'm not talking about people running in here with, with pickups and guns and protecting us from them. That's a whole other thing. I'm talking about the safety that we all deserve on a fundamental level by what we put in our bodies and what is being put into our bodies in a way that we're not even aware of. Clearly, the 5G is a big deal. Justice said, I told my dentist to ram his fluoride up his ass. That could be really toxic. Fluoride up the ass. I would not encourage a fluoride ass movement. Not good. Fluoride up your ass will not do well. He actually gave my son some toothpaste fluoride, even when he knows where my stand is. Yeah, these people, this guy who's a dentist. We have early voting here. And we were out by the courthouse, and we're getting signatures. And this dentist smirked. He was a dentist. He smirked. Wait till election day, buddy. We got your number. Fluoride enemas. Yeah, that's going to be the new thing. The fluoride enema challenge on YouTube. Who's willing to start that one off? Holy smokes. What else we have? Good morning, Robert. What did they please comment on Dr. Bill Deagle? Okay. So I have one experience with Bill Deagle. And how do I preface this? It was a time in my life where I had really terrible vertigo. Like, blood, sweat, and tears, world spinning round and round vertigo. And every single day. And I had it for about 6 months. It was really bad. So I was into, the alternative world, alternative medicine, all that stuff. And so I saw Bill Deagle online, saw an interview with him on Project Avalon, Carrie Cassidy, and I reached out to him. And I said, here's my problem, here's my issue, can you help me out? So he sent me a list of things that I should buy, right? Okay. All right, great. So I bought his stuff, almost $200 worth of supplements. And I started taking them, and nothing happened. Like, it didn't help me at all. And I bought enough to, get me through, like 90 days. No, not that much. Almost 2 months. Almost 2 months of supplementation, and none of it happened. None of it worked. So I reached back out to him. I said, hey, this isn't working. Do you have anything else that, you could share with me, or that I could use, or any insight into any of this? And it was nothing. It was done. It was gone. It was like, there was no, he didn't. And I think I might have emailed him like a second time after that. And then and this is what happens. Like, people, maybe they get busy, maybe they get tied up. I don't know. But it felt that connection felt just a little bit crass in some ways. And look, we're human. I do my best to work with people. I know I've dropped the ball a couple times because we're human. We make mistakes, we make errors. And you always want to leave kind of an out, right? There, for the grace of God, go I. But it just felt like, here I was really struggling physically. And here was a guy that, again, maybe I put too much on him, that knew a lot about what I was going through, and didn't answer the bell the second time. So, that was my experience around Bill Deagle. And who knows, maybe he's been great for other people, but in that moment I felt like, I got the handoff, and it was like, see you later, because I was really challenged physically, and I could have used maybe like a follow-up or something. I'm just saying. So you've been asking Charles about my experience. That was my experience. I'm trying to not paint it in too negative of a light, but at that time, I wasn't thrilled about it. So there you go. Okay. Shall we check into the border? What's going on with the border? There's stuff happening with the border. This is the story that I think we need to keep our eyes on, but not necessarily focus on. And I've been talking about this And the story, of course, is from HuffPost. Armed militia groups head to the border, sparking military concerns. I'm going to read this, even though it's coming from HuffPost. Armed bands of civilian militia members are traveling to the southern U.S. border, where President Donald Trump has ordered thousands of active duty troops to rebuff the approaching migrant caravan. About 200 unregulated armed militia members are currently operating along the southwest border, says a planning document for Army commanders leading the 5,200 troops Trump has deployed at the border, according to Newsweek. The groups operate under the guise of citizen patrols supporting border officials. The document says, pointing out reported incidents of unregulated militias stealing National Guard equipment during deployments. Really? Do you think that? Do you think they're going to go out and steal National Guard equipment? That the militias are going to do that? And if they are, I can tell you right now that those militias are infiltrated. Just like Timothy McVeigh's militia was infiltrated, right? Happens all the time. The U.S. Border Patrol late last month warned landowners in Texas to expect possible armed civilians to come onto their property because of the caravan. You know, those Texans are probably like, come on in, have some coffee, want some pie? You guys are doing great. Militia groups, heavily armed organizations that train members in paramilitary techniques, often are right-wing extremist organizations. The Southern Poverty Law Center identified 689 active anti-government extremist groups in 2017. Of those, 273 were militias. One militia group, the Texas Minutemen, has 100 volunteers heading to the Rio Grande to block migrants now traveling through Mexico. Leader Shannon McGauley told the Washington Post the untrained volunteers plan to dig in along border spots with camouflage clothing, flak jackets, semi-automatic weapons, night vision goggles, and aerial drones with thermal sensing equipment to locate people in the darkness. McGauley said they'll also come with camping gear and food supplies. Wow. Militia leaders echo Trump's pre-election anti-migrant hyperbole that the migrants are invaders and that the borders must be protected. Photos and videos of the caravan show large numbers of mothers and children. There's that children thing, right? Mothers and children. Let's see. We believe our nation is under attack by foreigners who refuse to accept the rule of law on how to become a citizen of the United States. Howie Morgan, the political action director of the Minutemen Project Militia, told Newsweek he said he hoped to see thousands of civilians join the troops to defend the border. Well, theoretically, that's the way it should be, right? I mean, come on. This is what the founding fathers had in mind. It wasn't the guys putting up Tent City, Trump City. No, it was the citizens, theoretically, right, of this country who would go and defend themselves against foreign invaders or foreign occupation. Keep your eye on this story. This is the story within the story. And this thing's going to be so layered. So layered. You're going to have this is going to be a feast. CNN, you got to love CNN. Get on your hands and knees and kiss the ground that Donald Trump walks on. Because you have so much content. And Donald Trump has added years of relevance to CNN's fading iron lung lifespan. Getting back to this idea that corporations are now becoming political. Wanted to read another story if I can get this thing to pop on my screen. Again, this is another version of this. It's from Zero Hedge. Soros partners with Mastercard to hand out money to migrants. Now, George Soros may not be with us anymore. He might be gone, right? However, whoever this guy is, or his son, Open society is still running programs. So I'm going to read this to you. Billionaire investor George Soros has repeatedly denied rumors that he is helping to finance the migrant caravans making their way up from Honduras and Guatemala through Mexico, with the ultimate aim of reaching the U.S. But that's about to change, as the Open Society founder, who famously financed much of the opposition to Trump's SCOTUS pick, Brett Kavanaugh, is now partnering with MasterCard to hand out money in the form of investment capital to migrants, refugees, and others struggling within their communities worldwide, according to Reuters. Through their partnership, Soros is effectively providing open financial support for migrants and refugees seeking to enter the U.S. and Europe. Okay, if you go back about 2 weeks ago, I was actually talking about this, but I was talking about it in a way that was kind of offhanded and sarcastic. And I was advocating that Soros take his money and go to south of the border and south of the border and invest in those countries and those people inside those countries. That was my advocacy. It was slightly tongue-in-cheek. And guess what? It's happening. Only it's happening on the way to, theoretically, this country. You see, the United States is a corporation. It's not a company. It's a corporate entity, and it does deals with other corporations. That's what's going on here. So George Soros is probably a corporate entity unto himself, even though the Open Society is a nonprofit NGO. I'll continue to read this here. The partnership between Soros and MasterCard, which they're calling Humanity Ventures, is the result of a pledge that Soros made in September to spend $500 million to address the challenge facing migrants and refugees. Well, why don't you help them where they live? That way they won't have to walk and be threatened and go through all kinds of potential personal harm and injury, which can occur in a very dangerous journey with a number of individuals who have dubious backgrounds and might actually be dangerous to hang out with, maybe by sponsoring them where they live. That would be a wonderful and humanitarian thing to do. No, that sponsorship will only happen en route to the next area that you are essentially hurting these people. Let me continue. Migrants are often forced into lives of despair in their host communities because they cannot gain access to financial, health care, and government services, Soros said. Well, you're so good at fucking with other people's countries. Why not fuck with their countries? And the countries that we're talking about, they're basically banana republics who are in debt, serious debt with the IMF and the World Bank, because those are the deals they made when they took on loans, and their petty dictators of the banana republics that were working theoretically for the people, did a Steve Miller and took the money and run. And then the countries went bankrupt and they sold their rights, whatever rights they had, in perpetuity to the IMF and the World Bank. Just read John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's all in there. So it's not like these countries are like these monoliths. Are you kidding me? These countries are small potatoes. And if you tell them to, the leaders of those countries, if you tell them to do somersaults in panda costumes, while reciting the Gettysburg Address, they'll do it because it's part of their agreement. It's part of their deal. So this idea that it is so oppressive that nothing can be done, that it's just like a rung of hell. Let's just get them. No, there's a whole different paradigm. And by the way, the World Bank, the IMF, people like Soros, even this country that we live in now, has some capacity to change their freaking reality. Case in point, how much do we give Israel every year? Billions. Well, what if we gave them maybe $1 billion less? Would it matter that much? What can we do with that $1 billion if we actually sent it to South America or Central America? Oh boy. And what if we had people that were really invested, like, I don't know, Levi's. Maybe Levi's wants to start a factory somewhere in Belize, or maybe they already have one. I don't know. They might. There's other ways of going about doing this, right? But the idea now is that these places are like, they're no-go zones. There's no way that anybody can have a life there. You're taking people away from their land. You're taking people away from their indigenous connection to the place that they were born and have had generations of families, because you want to weaponize these people. And who knows who else is part of the caravan or who is going to come into the country. It's just weaponization. I'm sorry. I may sound like, Clint Eastwood's character in Gran Torino, right? But it's clear on some level. You people can see it. It's clear. Why not reverse the tide? Reverse the tide. Help them. Take all no, they don't want to do that because we're talking about the politicization of corporations. Here we go. Mastercard. Mastercard is now throwing down and being able to help with human ventures. I'm going to continue to read this. Our potential investment in this social enterprise, coupled with Mastercard's ability to create products that serve vulnerable communities, can show how private capital can play a constructive role in solving social problems here. Do you see what's happening? Now it's the corporations that are going to take on governance. They're going to do an end around. And look, I'm not sitting here again blasting a trumpet for Washington, D.C. Like, come on, take these guys on. Give these people more. We don't want George Soros to get their votes, to get their attention, to get their energy. Use more of our money. Go defeat Soros. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is now we're into this competitive model. It's a competitive model. It's an open market, apparently. Right away, Soros plans to spend $50 million to provide scalable healthcare, education solutions. He intends to invest the money in businesses founded by migrants. You know how many people in this country? Why don't you invest in businesses in their country, Mr. Whoever you are, Soros? No, you're going to invest in them in this country. There are a lot of people in this country that could use your humanitarian effort and help. There are a lot of people who have theoretically fought the good fight for democracy and enlisted and gone overseas and come back, and they're so fucked up. Why don't you help them in their ability to integrate, start a new business? No. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It's total bullshit. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. And the reason why I wanted to bring it to your attention, because at a high level, we're seeing this Pluto Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, and guess what? Hold on, this monolithic rise of the corporocratic state. But as the Trump administration theoretically becomes more populist and less corporate, now the corporations are taking on that mantle of governance through the influence of imagery, through the influence of tapping into your psyche, your subconscious, and motivating, dividing and conquering. And also now we have the economic infrastructure. So we are going to have countries within countries based on this. And it is the corporate arm that is going to support this country within a country, the fragmentation, the deeper and further fragmentation. Now, again, people know, okay, let's just say, for instance, you live in East St. Louis, and you sure as hell would like to have a business. And you're looking at George Soros, and let's say you figure this thing out, right? And you look at George Soros and you hear this and you're saying, holy shit, these people are coming up here. They're going to get all these handouts. They're going to get MasterCards. They're going to get set up with businesses. And where's this motherfucker in my neighborhood? Where is he when we need him? Right? You see, this is where people theoretically really need to wake up. Right? Wake up. Because there are people in this country that are being underserved. I don't care if you're living in Appalachia. I don't care if you're living in East St. Louis. I was in San Antonio yesterday, and I got off on the freeway, wrong turn on the freeway, and it was like I was shocked. I was shocked by what I saw. It was like a level of poverty. It was like, holy shit. I was in San Antonio's ghetto, and it was like, it was something I hadn't seen in a while, to be quite honest with you. I live in Fredericksburg. Before that, I lived in Austin. And you go to East Austin, and there was a time when East Austin was kind of like the other side of the tracks, and it's like getting completely gentrified now. I mean, you wouldn't really, if you were there when I was there in the 90s, and you go there now, it's like, what is this place? It's really different. I don't recognize this place based on my memory of the 90s. Anyway, if you're an American, somebody living in this country, right? You're being underserved. And now, again, theoretically, there's a whole group of people that are going to leapfrog you if, this asshole and the people that are, whoever he is, whatever he is, he's the Mandarin as far as I'm concerned. That this asshole and the corporate interests now want to support them over supporting you. It's okay. Just buy their swoosh. Buy their Saturnian swoosh, and you'll be okay. But other than that, I mean, come on. You're being underserved. And all of a sudden now, there's a group that is going to be supported and given entitlements in ways that would make your entitlements seem impoverished, to say the least. So I just wanted to bring some attention to what's going on in this new level of the corporatocracy. And now it's coming from corporations who are becoming involved in governance and the establishment of borders within borders, worlds within worlds, societies and groups within societies and groups. The balkanization of the United States has begun. And the balkanization of the United States is a corporate effort. Because ultimately and theoretically, what the corporate model is now moving forward for the next 35 to 40 years is that they are looking at their consumer base and who they're going to be selling products to. And if this is the model and they want to attract, develop their new consumer base, what does it say about the old consumer base? What is that message? If you fill in the blank, you know what that message is. Yeah, that message is obsolete. Obsolete. So there's a much bigger social program going on here. And the corporations now are involved in the balkanization of not only this country, but the other countries around the world. And that's why nationalism has struck a chord with people. I look, the nationalist thing, is it better than globalism and corporatism? Well, theoretically, yes. If people who are representing this kind of nationalistic fervor actually really do what they say and say what they mean. And if it doesn't, and if they don't, then it's just a bunch of bullshit and hot air, in which case it means absolutely nothing. And it's another con, it's another scam, which is why I have said again, over and over, it is not about this plan, it's not about the figure, it's not about the identity, it's about the energy. And you take the energy. That's what you do. You take the energy and you apply it to your life. When Trump was elected, it broke the chain of command, the chain of title, and the chain of the hierarchy. On some level, it was broken. and that was good. And it liberated some energy. Go with the energy. Don't always just throw down because, whatever looks good, theoretically looks good, doesn't work that way. But the energy is something you can apply to your life. And that is the common denominator that we all have. Here's the issue. The issue is, does a national government support that kind of energy and intention to take responsibility for your lives and especially where you live? Do they support that? I would say by and large, the answer to that would be a big fat no. Because when that happens, guess what? You marginalize their role. You marginalize their top-down strategy. You marginalize, all their little sort of secret clubs and secret handshakes and secret deals. Because you as an individual connected with other individuals who are waking up and using this energy, want to make some change in your life and again, in the world around you, well, that disempowers their model. But that's where it's at. And that's going to be my message, moving forward. If you like the channel, you like what you hear, what I bring to the table, Monday through Thursday, this is what you're going to get. We will disassemble the social structures. We'll look at what's going on. We'll always try to bring it back to ground zero, which is you, your life, your quality of life, or perhaps lack thereof, in which you need to improve. Clear. So this is where we are moving forward. This is what this channel is dedicated to. And if you like it, then tell your friends, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm up to 300 people on this channel. And the reason why I started another channel was because I wanted to grow this kind of organically, because there are a lot of people that are interested in the astrological stuff, which I love to do, but they're not always interested in this. And a lot of people who are interested in this are interested in the astrology stuff. So I drop it in every now and then, which I want to do. But anyway, if you like it, tell people about it. We're up to 300 subscribers. And I started this channel, about 2 months ago, roughly 3 months ago, about 100 people per month. The goal is just to spread the message, connect, have a forum for you people in the chat room to hang out. It's a good chat room, a lot of really smart people, a lot of people who have some similar interests in mind. And, perhaps we can spark a little bit of a grassroots thing. I mean, that's the whole idea here. All right, let me get into the chat room, see what's going on. Said, when you give one man or a small group power to create money out of thin air, you can buy the plant. That's right, man. Federal Reserve. What else do we have? Everyone to check out Randy's OPR show with Carrie Berner, who is a TI from Government Vatican Jesuit. She's a true freedom fighter. Did you see that Dark did energy at Obama rally yesterday? What else? What else we have here? Drop an invitation, listen to Robert, live chats. I'm going to be doing a show with Emily and Randy today, and we're going to get into the whole Corey Good thing. We're going to talk about that. It was really interesting. I was thinking about this over the weekend, and people are invested at some level in finding the truth. And the truth takes a couple of different vectors, because I was thinking about the secret space program. So I watched some David Wilcock videos over the weekend. David Wilcock with, what's his name? Corey Good, Emery Smith. And what I got out of those videos was people who wanted truth, some validation, but they wanted to escape as well. They wanted a way out of this world, a Stargate or portal or some connection with some very, very powerful technology that could lift them up and out of this domain. So theoretically, it's like, light, right? They're looking for some form or source of light. Whether it's light ray technology or again, portals or whatever, stargates to a different place. Like that was their version of uncovering the truth and then kind of bringing it out so that, who knows, maybe we'll get the keys to the kingdom and get the fuck out of here. And then I was watching. Well, I wasn't watching, but there's the other sort of vector is people that descend kind of into the earth and then pull out, all the kind of satanic muck, the satanic goo, and the mind control, the programming, and the sacrificial stuff. And it's very, very dark. But it's getting like into the bowels of the earth and going like this, right? Pull it out. So we have these two interesting forces at work, both of which are trying to come to some level of understanding what the nature of reality is or non-reality. And one is trying to understand what's being kept from them so that they can go vertical, right? And get out. The other is trying to understand what's beneath their feet and has been going on around us so they can get it out and have kind of safer ground, right? Sacred ground to live on. But they were both kind of invested in this, how do I say this? Verticality. One goes up and the other goes down. And I was thinking, is there a middle point? Is there a middle point? Can you connect the two in some ways? And I think maybe you can. And maybe there's some people out there who are doing it. It was just a notice, right? It's just to notice two models trying to get to the bottom of something, but to get to kind of a different destination in some ways. Judy says, I can't bear to watch them. Hey, Lori, what's going on? Yeah, it was weird. I mean, it was my first introduction to Emery Smith, who seems very, like, I can read people pretty well. And he seems pretty clear. I don't get a lot of like bells and whistles that the guy's lying. It could be programmed, possibly. I do have a red flag that he's been hanging out with Stephen Greer, who I don't think is a very reputable character. That's just my opinion. And I think it's probably shared by other people. But the Corey and David stuff was just weird. The whole thing was, it's all hearsay too. And people want, it's like their version of God. They're trying to find this version of God in some ways based on whistleblowers. And anyway, we're going to get into that. Me, Randy, and Emily are going to get into that. Okay, I got to run a little bit longer today, about an hour and 15 minutes of flame. Well, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stable what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'll be back tomorrow. And if you enjoy what you hear in these sort of monologues on a daily basis, tell your friends, have them subscribe, ring that little bell, and have a great day. All right. And tomorrow, boy, it'll be election day. That'll be really interesting, huh? Really interesting. Okay. Take care, everybody. You can find me over on Facebook. Check out Clean Water Fredericksburg. That's our page where we're doing our best to get the fluoride out of the water here. And check out the interview with Sam Brannon. Sam's a really great guy. And I have just, mad respect for the man who was part of a group that got fluoride out of the water in San Marcos. Not an easy thing to do. All right. Take care, everybody. Ciao for now.